Member.
Thanks, Speaker. And again, my question's for the Premier. The bad news stories on the electricity file come as fast as the water flows over Niagara Falls, Speaker. The Ontario PCs believe in green, clean, renewable power. What we don't believe in is selling it to Michigan and New York at a loss. Let's be a little more specific. We have great made-in-Ontario power, hydroelectric. But last year, the Liberals allowed 4.7 terawatt-hours of hydroelectric power to be wasted in Ontario, including the station at Niagara Falls. It's the equivalent of powering nearly 500,000 homes for a year. Mr. Speaker, how did the government mismanage the system so poorly that we're letting green, hydroelectric power made in Ontario to be shipped across the border at such a significant loss?
Of Energy.
Minister of Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So let's talk about what they're claiming, Mr. Speaker. They like to claim that power is wasted when water is spilled at hydroelectric generating stations, Mr. Speaker. This just shows how little they know about the system. Our advantage of our clean, reliable and flexible system that we have built is that we're able to procure energy on an as-needed basis. This means that we only use the electricity that is produced at the cheapest cost at that time, Mr. Speaker. Anytime a generator is not producing electricity, it is because there were cheaper options available at that time. This means that a hydro facility will generate power when it can offer into the market at a low price, and it is not used when it offers too expensive power relative to any other sources. Mr. Speaker, which begs the question, do the PCs really think we should be running these generators at a higher cost to Ontario ratepayers? Probably so, Mr. Speaker. Maybe they'll do that this weekend when they come up with maybe one idea on policy.
Supplementary.
Speaker,
run you out of office.
Well, what we really need to do here is take the cookie jar off that minister's desk, because he's made a mockery of our electricity system in Ontario. It's made a complete mess of our Ontario electricity system.
Minister of Education is warned.
Speaker, to make matters worse, I just want to reiterate that Ontario exported 21.9 terawatt-hours of electricity at a net financial loss of up to $1.25 billion. That number represents more than 2 million homes worth of electricity that Ontario has sold to neighbouring jurisdictions for a price less than what it costs to produce. Mr. Speaker, what does the Premier say? What does the minister say to those 2 million electricity customers in Ontario that have to overpay so you can subsidize power to our neighbouring jurisdictions that are poaching our jobs at the same time?
Thank you. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What do I say to all of the 2 million customers that he was talking about, Mr. Speaker? Is they voted against reducing their rates by 25%, Mr. Speaker. That's what I would say to them. They have no plan on actually helping them, Mr. Speaker, and we do. But when it comes to net benefits of the export system, Mr. Speaker, every jurisdiction imports and exports electricity. And we do so, Mr. Speaker, at the net benefit of $236 million in 2016. We did the same in 2015, the same in 2014, the same in 2013, Mr. Speaker. Go back and talk about their legacy, Mr. Speaker. They were importing power at the cost of $700 million a year, Mr. Speaker, and doing it at the same time when we actually saw our use increase 127% on coal, Mr. Speaker. We've actually shut down coal. When it comes to a legacy, we've got clean air, we've got a reliable system, and we're working on making this system more and more affordable. On that side of the House, Mr. Speaker, no legacy.
Thank you. Final supplementary.
Once again, Speaker, we have a Minister of Energy ignoring the advice of the experts in the energy sector for his own political spin, his own political messaging. If any other company or business sold their excess product at a loss of $1.25 billion, you know what would happen to them, Speaker? They'd be fired. They'd be out of a job immediately. There's no way they would keep their job. Yet this government has the audacity to tell everyone how great they are. Mr. Speaker, everybody can see through this. They've made a mockery of our energy sector. Mr. Speaker, this waste in the system deserves an apology. So, Speaker, will the Premier apologize for signing energy contracts that we don't need and selling energy at a loss for up to $1.25 billion at the same time?
Thank you. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, let's look at the facts. The facts are, and they still matter in Ontario, $236 million in net benefit to Ontario ratepayers, which, Mr. Speaker, since 2013 have been a net benefit of our exports of over $1 billion in savings to Ontario ratepayers. Let's talk about our trade with our electricity system, Mr. Speaker. It's managed by the experts, by our system experts, Mr. Speaker, our system operator. And it's the market that determines the price of electricity. And we only export electricity when the trade is a benefit to Ontario ratepayers. Our government, Mr. Speaker, will continue to participate in the electricity market, increasing the reliability and the cost-effectiveness of our system, Mr. Speaker.
Answer.
It is something that we'll continue to do, and something, Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to work with all of our partners, all of our neighbours, all of our system operators and the experts to make sure we have the best.